On Saturday, June 28, 2014, Disabled People Against Cuts led an occupation in the foregrounds of Westminster after having exhausted all avenues over 2 years to save their £300 million independent living fund. On the 18th of December 2012, the UK government announced that it will scrap the Independent Living Fund, which supports approximately 18,500 severely disabled people. In 2013, 5 claimants took the UK government to court. Consequently, the Court of Appeals found that the government had breached its equality duty in failing to properly assess the impact of the closure on disabled people. Only this victory was to be short-lived.
The government is challenging disabled people's main independent benefit.
I was out of your league, and you were 20,000 underneath the sea, waving affections. You were out of my league, at a distance that I didn't wanna
see. Disabled people took them to court. They won that court case. But Ed and Duncan Smith decided, oh, business as normal. So they then decided we'll devolve it to local councils. But the local councils will only have funding for the Independent Living Fund for a year. After that, who knows? But that money is not ring-fenced. So the councils, local authorities, can use that money for any purpose they want. Filling potholes, polishing streetlights, whatever.
A junction, and often there was one. You'd surface faced first, and we'd share thought bubbles.
What we are doing here is making a point.
Yes, and we facilitate lawful protest. There's no problems with that at all.
Yeah, but don't hurt us.
That's not the intention.
We've already had a large number of people commit suicide already as a result of cuts in benefits. We've had parliamentary debates. We've gone through all the normal forms of demonstrations and representations to government, and nothing's worked. So people with disabilities have had enough. They're drawn a line in the sand and they're taking direct action, and I fully support them. What else can they do?
We went to speak to the Dean, and we put forward the case and why we're here, how we're fighting to retain the Independent Living Funds for the most severely disabled people. And though the Dean did express some sympathy with our cause, he said it was completely unacceptable that we should have a protest in the grounds of Westminster Abbey, and he said that under no circumstances would he allow us to stay here.
Well, this is a piece of open land. It might well be in private ownership, but he'll have to go through the civil courts to remove people. So, but it's shocking that a church is doing it.
He was adamant.
You would expect solidarity from the church on an issue like this.
We asked for that, it's all in the letter.
Given that it's a time-limited occupation, we only intend to stay here for 3 weeks. We would hope the church would support us and assist us in putting pressure on Parliament. And he basically wasn't having any of it.
And true affection floats.
Upon releasing an impact assessment report approximately 1 year after the so-called victory to save the fund, the UK government announced, in so many words, that the fund would last 1 more year. After that, the severely disabled people will presumably have to be placed in institutions.
We're here to campaign to save the vital funding that pays for our personal assistance, which means we can take part in everyday living.
Any one of you on the other side of the railings?
The police locked the gates when it became apparent that an occupation was being attempted, locking many supporters out. About 100 people managed to get in nevertheless, amongst them around 20 Independent Living Fund recipients. The number of police officers that appeared was truly extraordinary. The police blocked the view of the protest from the street by lining up around the protest, doubling their line at key viewpoints. All the protesters, including the severely disabled people, were threatened with arrest on a number of occasions.
Now, just to clarify again, they can make you liable for arrest for aggravated trespass.
And eventually, DPAC led the protest off the grounds with all their gear.
I never felt so